All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our virtual field trip this afternoon. My name is Megan Winters, and I work at the Ohio Pork Council, where I work alongside Ohio's pig farmers. So again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. For those of you joining us in your classroom through Zoom, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box. And for those of you joining us through Facebook, you can submit your questions through the comments box, and we will answer as many of those as we can. I would like to thank National Pork Board for sponsoring today's program. And without further ado, I will introduce our farmer host for today. So today we have farmer Gracee, and she works at the Ohio State University Swine Farm in Dublin, Ohio, where she's responsible for providing animal care and teaching students about pigs. And although Gracee works with pigs every day at work, she actually didn't grow up on a farm, but she loves her job and loves educating young people about pig farming. So Gracee, I will go ahead and turn it over to you to share with us a little bit about your job and the things that you'll be showing our students today.
Well, hello everyone. I can't see you, but you can see me. So as Megan said, my name is Gracee and I am in Dublin, Ohio, and I'm the manager of swine operations for the Ohio State University. And to kind of go in more detail about what Megan mentioned, that is correct. When I was your age, I knew nothing about pig farming. I didn't know where my food came from. It came from the grocery store. And I also had no idea that this world even existed. So prior to coming to Ohio State, I worked in the industry with farmers all over. So I will touch base on that as well. Now at Ohio State, it's pretty great. There's students all the time that come in here, some with pig experience, some with not, and we work it out and they learn and they end up loving working with the pigs. So there's a lot of teaching here and there's also research. Both are extremely important, especially for understanding food production and what it takes to take care of those animals as well as bring food to your table. So that's some of what I want to go over today. Here at this farm, we have between 400 to 500 animals. We actually have mom pigs here, which you'll get to see. So we'll go over some of those terminologies, but you'll have a gilt or a sow. Both are females and both can have baby pigs. And then from there, we'll go over breeding, how long they're pregnant for. And then we'll go over the next step, which is when they have their babies. So I'll show you kind of how the crates that they're in when they do that and why we do the things that we do. And then from there, where they go after that and how much they grow. So like Megan mentioned, any questions, anything you see that you question why we do that, there is a reason. So please feel free to comment and ask questions. For now, I'm going to take you guys into the barn and show you the moms. So in here, this is what we call our gestation part of the barn. So in the gestation part of the barn, this is where we have female pigs and we breed them. When we breed them, we check them about 30 days to see if they're pregnant. And then from there, we move them into this group housing. So one thing you'll see when you go to pig barns is there are crates where those animals are individually housed. And then there's also group housing where they're housed together. There are pros and cons for both sides. One thing to always know is everything we do on a pig farm, myself and any other pig farmer, is what is best for the animals. So animal welfare is our number one priority, and having them in an environment where they progress and do very well is the other priority, because at the end of the day, we need them to do well. So about 30 days, these are all gilts. So that means this is their first time they'll be a mom. So all of these girls that you see in here are pregnant. They will farrow out baby pigs. And then after they have their first litter, that is when we call them a sow. So like I said, once they have a litter, they're called a sow. Parity, if you ever hear that word, that is actually how many litters they have. So for instance, these gilts, these moms that are about to have their first litter are parity ones. After that, everybody else will be a parity 2 for their second litter, parity 3 for their third litter. It kind of varies farm to farm how many litters their moms have. So for example, here we keep them to about parity 4, parity 5. Sometimes on the industry side, they'll keep them for about 7 to 8 parities, or if they're still doing really well being a mom, they'll keep them even longer than that. So one thing to keep in mind, and I want to explain, sometimes you guys hear the word industry, and sometimes you might hear the word factory farming. So that is a term that is used a lot, maybe on social media or on the news, or people that don't quite understand the concept of raising for food production. So one thing to know is it is always your local farmer that are raising these animals. So if you hear that there is a name that has a large number of pigs and you call that factory farming, in reality, the farmer actually builds the barn and takes care of those pigs every day. So it's still the farmer that you see that raise other livestock, that raise crops. And that's one thing to always keep in mind. Sometimes that factory farmer is not necessarily a factory. It's really important to understand it's still your local farmer and they still put a lot of hours into raising these animals. So one thing to note for how long they're pregnant for, which is pretty easy to remember. It's 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. So when you see that, it's 114 days, but it's easier to remember the 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. So that's how long they're pregnant for before they have their baby pigs. There are a lot of different breeds of pigs. Like if you're looking at any other animal, whether it's dogs and you have a lab or a golden retriever, or cattle, you have a dairy or a beef, pigs are the same way. So these are a landrace York breed. They are bred for food production, and they are meant to have a good number of pigs per sow and that they're able to raise. So sometimes we see about between 13 to 18 pigs born per sow. All of these are smaller because they're gilt. So as they get older and every litter they have, they will actually grow and grow and grow. So right now you could say they're around 320 to 400 pounds. And some of our sows will go up to 600 to 700 pounds, just depending on the age and how many litters they have had. When they come into this group housing, they do fight. That's one of the cons against the group housing. Pigs are very dominant, so they will come together and they will have to distinguish who is in charge and kind of their line. A neat thing about them is they usually go in to eat at the same time. So we have this really nice Gestation automatic feeder over here. And what happens is the mom to be will go to this is when there's not an animal in it, up in the air, and she'll walk into it and there's a little bar and it'll push and it'll shut her in. So then she'll walk up and she has this really cool tag. It's called an RFID tag. And this system right here on this actually reads. So when it reads it, it knows who she is, it knows her ID, and it knows if she has or has not had any feed for the day. So the moms to be are on 5, depending on sometimes 4 to 6 pounds per day, depending on their age or how many litters they've had. But when it reads it, it'll actually drop the feed out of this auger and then they'll be able to eat. Sometimes they like to keep going in to see if they can get any more, or they're so smart that they'll come in and they'll hit it and try to get some feed to drop. But other than that, that's how we know. And we can also check the computer system, which is a great part, because then we know if anybody's not eating any of their feed. We know if they're going in a lot, there might be an issue other than that, or if they're not going in at all. So that's a really neat thing. They are in here. They get put in here about 30 days pregnant. And then from there, they're in here till about day 109. So like I said, they're pregnant for 114 days. And about 109 days is when we move them out and put them into their farrowing stall for them to get ready to have babies. One thing also to note raising pigs, and we can go over it more, is nutrition. Nutrition is huge in any animal, raising animals, especially in swine. So just like you when you're growing and you go to the doctor and you have to have a food pyramid and certain parts as you grow and get older, you have to have, so many veggies, so many fruits. It's all important to help you grow. And it's the same thing with pigs. And there's nutritionists in the animal industry that help farmers, and it's really important. So as these pigs get older, at certain points in their life, they actually change what kind of feed they're getting. And that's to make sure that they're getting the nutritional requirements they need to go properly and efficiently. So one thing to note is when they're pregnant, they get a certain diet. So all of these girls in here get a certain diet that they'll eat while they're pregnant. It's called a gestation diet. Now at day 109, when we move them in to have little baby pigs, they will actually be on a different diet. And that is a lactation diet so that they can be able to nurse those pigs. Do we have any questions so far?
Yeah, Gracee, we actually have a question there about the automatic feeder. So this is a good time to answer that. Miss Johnson would like to know, how do the pigs get out of the feeder when they're done eating?
So once they're done eating, they usually know because the feed drops about every 30 seconds or so, and then they'll know that nothing's more and it's licked completely clean. So then at that point, they will back up. So they back up and there's this bar right here on this feeder that pushes. So when that bar pushes, it releases this gate up here, and then they're able to open it up. So when they push against this, it opens up and then they back all the way out. And then that leaves this part of the feeder all the way up so that the next animal can come through, go in, it shuts behind them. As you could maybe see a second ago, it was still open and there was a couple right here. That's only because the size for these gilts are a little bit smaller. So when you have a large sow, it immediately shuts all the way around because their body fits completely in it.
Perfect. Thanks, Gracee. And then can you remind us again, what is pig feed made of?
So pig feed is made of a few different things. Corn is number one. Soybean meal is number two. There's a lot of different minerals put into the feed and amino acids. It depends on kind of how much of what for the stage of life they're in. So a lot of times when you drive down the road and you see a field, whether it's corn or whether it's soybeans, which is a shorter plant on the field, and the corn's the real tall, a lot of that is actually for animal feed and livestock feed. So a lot of what you see going down the road gets used for that. So soybeans is, you get the soybean meal from the soybeans, and there's different percentages. So there's different protein levels and all the above that factor into what stage they need.
Perfect. Thank you.
I do want to point out right over here, this little girl, this is an enrichment toy. So I don't know if anybody's seen that. So farmers do different things, and this is one of them. This is just a toy. It looks like a great big jack. If you've ever played jacks where you throw them down, and they love them. So this is, they do different things to do it. Enrichment is great. Straw is a really good enrichment where animals can chew on the straw. But in a lot of these systems, we have a manure system to where all of the manure, because the reality is all pigs pee and poop, all of the manure goes down in and flows out. So if you have a bunch of straw, it clogs that up. So we have to look at different ways in order to give them enrichment for being in this environment. So this is one of them. I would like to say it's really heavy duty, but as you can see, they like to chew on it so much that sometimes they chew it all off, but it's fun to watch them. They grab it and they run, and it definitely is an enrichment for them.
So Gracee, we're going to see some different sized pigs on our tour here today. But Miss Rutherford's class would like to know, how big is the biggest pig on your farm?
Okay, well, I will walk over. We'll see if we can stay connected. But here are other moms to be, and they are actually going to be moms this month. These sows are the biggest ones we have on our farm here. And as you can tell, they're all laying down, sleeping, and they're comfortable. But a lot of these girls right here are about 600, 700 pounds, and they're moms. And like this girl right here will be a mom this month. So here's some of our larger animals. We will see different sizes. The ones that we have for food production, it usually takes about 6 months to get them to that size, and they're around 285, 300 pounds. And those are the ones that we raise around market and harvest time to bring food to your table.
Very good. So we have another question here in the chat, Gracee, and I don't know if you want to answer this now or a little bit later. How long does it take for a pig to have a baby or a litter of piglets?
So yeah, we can touch on that. We'll head over to the farrowing now, and we'll kind of touch base on that and the process of all the baby pigs. So like I said, they're pregnant for 114 days. Hopefully that's stuck with you guys so far, one thing you learned, but we move them here. So here, since we do research, we actually weigh them and then we wash them, which not every farm does. We do. They love to be washed. And then we bring them through this hallway that we're walking in right now. And they walk right over here, and we put them into what's called a farrowing stall. And farrowing is the definition for that, I'm sorry, is when they have their baby pigs. So when they're delivering their baby pigs. So this mom to be right here is a first-time mom. So she's a gilt parity 1. She got moved in. Her 109 date was on Friday. So she'll be due to have baby piglets anytime now. So what happens is she's in this stall. And a lot of people don't understand why pigs are in stalls. But once you actually have hands-on experience and you understand the environment, it's to keep the sow and her piglet safe. So a lot of times moms can lay on their babies. So that is why. So they can get up and they eat and they drink and they lay down. As they're nursing, they're not very active at all anyway. So this is a great tactic to keep our baby pigs safe. So let's say she was farrowing right now and we had baby pigs. What we do is usually they start on their own. And then when they start on their own, all the farmers, including myself and any farmer that raises any animal that has a baby pig, is actively checking her. So we want to make sure that she's having her baby pigs okay. So if we come in and she doesn't have a baby pig for about 20 or 30 minutes, then we actually assist her. So actually us farmers actually help pull the baby pigs out, and we dry them off, we get them under the heat lamp, and then they start nursing right away. They start immediately looking to nurse and to get milk. So if they don't have piglets about every 20 to 30 minutes, why we help them is because sometimes when they have so many, they hang out in the birth canal for too long. And we don't want to lose those baby pigs. So in that case, we help her if she needs it. Only if she needs it, we pull them out. It's a little bit different depending on sow or gilt or when they start. Some that have 15 can have them all within an hour. Sometimes it's farther spaced out over a few hours. Those few hours are the ones that we really pay attention to and make sure that they're having their baby pigs okay. So how it kind of works, like I said, the baby pigs come out. If they need dried off, we have little towels here. We dry them off. This right here is a mat. And a lot of times we dry them off and we put them on this mat. Then they have this heat lamp. So they love laying right under here on this mat under this heat lamp. And like I mentioned, they start nursing right away. And if they don't, we assist them and help them. So day 1 care is what we call it. And it's a huge, huge important role in pig farming because we want those baby pigs to get their colostrum right away and to start nursing off mom. About a day after they're born, we do things called processing. And processing is nothing scary. It sounds a little intimidating, but it's not. What we do is we give all the pigs an iron shot. So it's just like if the pig is actually born anemic, meaning they need that iron, and it's kind of more detailed, but it's how the blood actually goes to certain cells and then goes through and helps those baby pigs. But anyways, when they're in this environment, they need that iron shot. So when we process, we give them an iron shot. We weigh them here, and we weigh them because we do research. Not every farm weighs them. They weigh, it depends on the pig, but about 3.5 pounds up to 4.5 pounds when they're born. And then we actually dock their tails too. So as you can see on some of these girls right here, their tail is about this long. You might have seen some longer ones in the other barn. They're actually born with really, really long tails. One of the reasons why we actually dock their tails when they're first born is because as pigs get older, they love to bite and to chew. And they will actually continue to bite that tail until there's an issue there. So we do that for the safety of the pigs. We give them a tag. So there's a small little button tag. There's an RFID tag. I don't know if you'll be able to see it with a lot of different numbers. And then there's one without. That's actually the tag. This girl right here was born here at our farm. So that's actually the tag that we put in their ear at birth. And that's so we can identify them. When you have 15 pigs, sometimes they all look alike and we have to treat them just like if you're sick, you know, we do treat the pigs. What you have to understand too is if you understand food production, every medication has a withdrawal time. That withdrawal time is the time that you can actually sell that animal for food production. So something to keep in mind is there's never any animals with medication in their system that makes it to your food supply. And I think that's something that you might see too, that you think there's medication in the animal system, but there's not. All of those drugs have a withdrawal time for animals. So if they're not feeling well, they're not doing well, we do treat them, but the tags are to identify them so we can keep track if we need to do that. And so we know who weighs what. They are on their mom for 21 days. Every farm is a little bit different. So one thing to understand is that is what we call weaning, when we take them off of mom. So here they're on the sow or the gilt for about 21 days. And then from there they go to the nursery. But here we also weigh them when we wean them. So we have to have that tag because we have a birth weight and then we have a wean weight. Wean weights vary. Like I said, they're about 3.5, 4.5 pounds, give or take when they're born. They can be between 14 pounds. And we actually weaned a couple Fridays ago and we had some that were 26 pounds when we took them off mom. And that was just in 21 days. So they do grow very fast. One other thing to note is nutrition. Like I mentioned, this is when they lactate. So they're on a whole different diet during lactation. A lot of time put into the nutrition to make sure that mom is getting what she needs in order to have a good milk supply for her baby pigs. Any questions on piglets?
Yeah, Gracee, we have a couple questions here in the chat. Miss Matthias would like to know, why do some of your pigs have more ear tags than others?
So no real reason why some have more. So when they were born, they were given a tag. That tag sometimes can fall out, but at the time that it falls out, they're re-tagged. So for instance, we have a big tag that's larger. They're all laying the same way. So they're all on this ear. Right over here on this girl underneath on her ear, which if you move on the outside of it, if you move her, she might jump up, but that's a larger tag. So we put that tag in her as she gets older because we re-identify her and we make sure that that larger tag will stay in her ear. If that small tag falls out, it's no big deal. We don't need it anymore. We could cut those tags out, but they don't hurt anything, so we decide to leave them. Then that other small button tag is the RFID tag. So she has to have that in order to get feed from the feeding system in gestation.
Very good. We have a couple more questions here about piglets. Miss Klavner would like to know, how many piglets are typically in a litter? And then we also have another question that says, do the piglets like to play with each other?
So the litter depends. So different genetics of pigs produce a different amount. So example, if you've ever heard of 4-H or you have show pigs, sometimes when their moms farrow out, they have between 8 to 12 pigs. If that, this landrace York breed that we have here, which a lot of a lot of farmers have, are raised to be moms, and they're raised to have a large number per sow. So we've seen up to 20 pigs, not a lot, but sometimes we see over 20 pigs. I would say a good middle range would be between 13 to 16 pigs per sow. And then depending on what we have when we wean them, we have a good about 13 piglets per sow average, meaning that they raise about 13 piglets on them. One thing to understand too is piglets are specific to the teats that they nurse from. So if you have a lot of pigs per sow, they do tend to fight over those teats. So sometimes we're able to actually, it's called cross fostering, which is a pretty amazing thing. And we're also, let's say, who you see right now has 18 pigs and the mom next to her has 10 pigs. You can actually, if they're born at the same time, take 4 pigs off of her and move her over to the mom, and she'll raise those pigs without a problem.
Very good. Gracee, we have a couple of requests, and we'll try to maybe work our way over there slowly to see if we can hold connection. Do you have any piglets in there that you could show us?
We do have piglets. So the other side of the room here, we farrow 24 at a time, meaning we have 24 pigs. All of our moms to be in that last pen will go on this empty side over here. And the baby pigs, I'll keep the lights off. I'll walk around. So the baby pigs you see on here were born different days, a lot of them over the weekend. These are all on them. We have some of them nursing. This right here, our litter down here at the end, is our oldest litter. So this is the first group of pigs. And as you can see, they already got their ear tag and they got their iron shot. They are very vocal animals, so sometimes you can hear them a lot. And one thing to mention too, if you guys ever see pig barns or you see signs that says do not enter or anything like that, sometimes people think that's because there's something being hidden behind the scenes, but that is not true. So the main reason why farmers have signs like that, it's called biosecurity. And it's to keep the pigs actually safe and healthy from you. So for instance, if I had the flu right now and I came into this barn and I worked with these pigs, they can get the flu from me. So sometimes we hear things like, oh, swine flu or different scare tactics on that line. But what you guys have to understand is we can actually give stuff to the pigs. So that's why a lot of farmers keep the pigs in an area where not a lot of public comes into in order to keep their herd healthy. A lot of barns you have to shower in and shower out of the pig barns, meaning you cannot take your shoes or any of your clothes inside. You have to wash up, wash down, put on the barn clothes they have, and then before you leave, you have to do the same exact thing. And that's to keep the pigs safe. So sometimes pigs can get sick if they're not kept safe, and that's why it's really, really important to keep good biosecurity on the barn, because if all these little pigs got the flu, then they wouldn't feel very good and they wouldn't nurse and they wouldn't grow.
So Gracee, we have another question here in the chat, and I noticed that there were a couple piglets over there that had some markings on them. Miss Smith wants to know, why are all of your pigs the same color?
So the landrace, great question. The landrace York are like all the moms, the white pigs. They are bred to a Duroc. So a Duroc has the red. So some of the red you see is the Duroc that they're bred to. Now, keep in mind, sometimes you don't see any red, and then sometimes you see a lot of pigs with red. Some of our animals in here actually are show bred too. And we do that so that we have a variety for teaching and for research. And that has even more color. So as you guys look at those pigs, just so you guys can see one that has some show, you can see, but A lot of times in the landrace York is actually because that's the mother's genetics, and that's why they don't have a whole lot of color. But the one I'm bringing over now actually has some show genetics. So sometimes with show genetics, you get a lot of different variety of color. So this little guy was just born over the weekend, and he's pretty cute. Bright-eyed, alert, was laying next to mom under the heat lamp. So this pig is just a couple days old.
Perfect. Thank you. We have another question here from Miss Kelly Morgan, and she would like to know how old the mother pigs or the sows get to be.
So our younger moms to be are around, I would say, a year old, a year of age, and then they farrow out. And then depending on the farm, like I said, that varies for how old they are, but I would say they're probably about 2.5, 3 years old when they move on from the farm.
So, Gracee, another question that we got here from Miss Seward's class is they would like to know how you take care of those baby pigs in the winter. And then on the flip side, if you can talk about how you care for them during the summer as well.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing you'll see too when it comes to raising pigs is there's a variety of ways to raise pigs. Some are outdoor, some are indoor. Both are great ways as long as in either situation the shelter is correct. So it's not, if you see all these pigs inside, it is not bad to raise pigs outside. It's just as good as long as the environment is correct. So in this barn, most barns, we have the heat pretty high. So the temperature is very high in here, and they have all these heat lamps because they like to stay very, very warm. It is easier to do that in the summertime because it's warm outside. And then we just tolerate it in the winter time, but it still stays above 80 degrees in the farrowing house. Then when they move off of mom at 21 days, they go to a nursery and start that temperature at 80 degrees. So a lot of times in these barns, there's different fans that help move the air in the right way, move the air out. So if, for instance, in the summertime when it gets hot, sometimes the rooms can get warm and warm because those, if there was no fans, it couldn't cool that room down. But that's where those fans kind of kick on. And all of it is to keep the pigs at the right temperature. So they do really well. They like a warm environment, and they don't like to. So when they get cold, they use their energy. So sometimes that affects how, when they're getting all their nutrition, how well they hang on to that nutrition. So it's something that is very important. Ventilation is a huge aspect in raising pigs, and one might not think that, but it's very, very important to have a good ventilation system in order to keep these pigs right. For instance, you don't want air to come falling down directly on them. Sometimes that causes issues. You want the air to kind of be level in the room and to keep the air flowing. So when they're this small, the goal is that the room is really warm and they have these heat lamps on to stay warm.
So, Gracee, I know that you mentioned earlier about the importance of day one care that you provide to those piglets. Miss Turner's vet science class would like to know what kind of veterinary care do the pigs receive?
So they receive outstanding veterinary care, and all pig farms do. And that's something that is not always known either. So every farmer has a veterinarian that they work with, and they actually make visits to the farm and work with the farmers and the producers raising the pigs for high quality care. So for instance, every farmer has a vet client relationship, and it's something that you have to have a vet come out to your farm to do. So anyways, we have a vet that comes here, and he helps us with what we need to be changing, if there's anything to change, or what we need to go in to do the number one health care. And that's just like any vet. So also, if I had an issue, if I had a pig that was sick, that wasn't doing well, and I didn't know what caused that, that vet would actually come out as well and work with us to figure out a diagnosis, to figure out what's going on with our piglet, to get that piglet better care, or sow or gilt or any animal we have here on the farm. They work directly with us.
That's great, Gracee. Thank you. So we have a couple questions here, Gracee. So you've shared an awful lot about pig farming with us, and I know that you mentioned that you didn't grow up within agriculture. So how long did it take you to get comfortable with pig farming, and how did you learn so much?
So I want to say pig farming is something that was at first very challenging for me to understand, not on the aspect of on the side of the food production, but on the side of how much work it takes. So I think that that challenge in itself is what helped me continue to work hard at it. So for instance, not coming from it when I first started, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And it's, you start really early in the morning. A lot of farms you're showered in by 5 o'clock in the morning because the animal care is number one. And without you, the animals don't get fed, the water doesn't get checked, and the care doesn't get, so they rely on you. So they're number one. They're always number one. And I think my passion for animals is what made me grasp on to this whole pig farming experience. And then once I got in it, I realized how much work and effort it takes to actually raise food production for your plate. So for instance, any food that comes from any grocery store is your farmer. It takes them. Without them, you wouldn't have that opportunity. So just knowing that the amount of care and knowledge that goes into raising them, whether it's from nutrition or from the day one care, like we said, or sleeping them, which is pulling the baby pigs out, or all of the above, breeding them, keeping them safe during and healthy during the time that they're bred is all extremely important things. So when I got involved in it and I started to understand how much effort that farmers put into it and how much they care, because if they didn't, the animals wouldn't grow and be effective. That is what led my passion to continue to be a part of food production.
Very interesting. Thanks for that, Gracee. So is there any sort of selection process, or is there any type of protocols that farmers have to follow, or, you know, how would you go about starting a pig farm if you were interested in doing that?
Yeah, so there's multiple things when it comes to getting involved and being part of raising the pigs. So there's a lot of farmers out there that need help, need individuals that are, you know, care and their effort is strong. And the other part of that is you have different certificates that you can do when you raise pigs. So for instance, there's a thing called quality assurance. And quality assurance is something that a farmer takes, and it's up-to-date knowledge and care that they take, and they test it, and they actually get quality assurance certified. The other thing is also when they transport. So a lot of these animals have to be transported from farm to farm. So you might see big livestock trailers or small trailers that haul them. And there's actually different ways to do that as well. So there's so many different, there's composting certificates. There's so many things that farmers do and actively do in order to stay on top of the latest news of how to raise pigs efficiently.
Gracee, we have a couple more questions coming in the chat here. Do any of your pigs there on the farm have names?
So we actually do have names on our farm. So we have students here at Ohio State that are either in animal sciences that plan on sticking to the swine industry, or they're going to school to become a veterinarian, and they have come up with lots of names. So we have a Violet and we have a Brittany. I'm trying to think who else we have. So they kind of pick the ones, but yeah, they stick with us for a long time. So they do get names on there.
That's great. So Gracee, we know that there are about 3,500 pig farms in the state of Ohio. What do you think makes pig farms different from other farms?
So I would say the number one thing that makes them different is animal welfare. So it's important all across the board, but in pig farms and raising animals for food production, you have to stay on top of animal care and animal welfare, or the pigs don't do well in those environments. So therefore, the farmer spends several hours twice a day in those barns in order to do that care, and that's something that makes them stand out, compared to other aspects of the working industry.
Absolutely. Well, I will open up the chat box if anyone else has any questions for Gracee, but I just wanted to ask you, Gracee, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our students while we have them here today?
I would say the number one thing is I hope you guys all learned something. That was my goal. And if you guys have any questions regarding where your food comes from or what it takes, you should always go to the source. And your source in that case is always the farmer. So when you learn about different details of pig farming or any type of farming, make sure you contact them if you do have questions regarding it, because that's who's going to tell you what's really going on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Gracee. We really appreciate your time today and everything that you've shared with us. And we also want to thank our special guest, Sam, who helped us with the videoing today. So I would just like to thank everyone for joining us. We do have a couple more upcoming virtual field trips. We will actually be back with Gracee again next week, April 20th at 1 p.m. We also have a trip on April 22nd at 9 a.m., May 13th at 10 a.m., and May 13th at 1 p.m. And if you're interested in joining us, you can visit ohiopork.org/field trip to get signed up. And of course, if you ever have any questions, please feel free to contact us. And we really appreciate your support of our program. So thank you again and have a good afternoon.